I just kind of gravitate towards artists, and I don't know. Sometimes the people that I'm talking with don't even realize I'm a bookkeeper for artists until I tell them, and that sort of solidifies their belief in me after they realize that.
I love bookkeeping.
Hello, welcome everyone to the I Love Bookkeeping Show. I'm your host, Ben Robinson, and with me today, I've got a really fine lady. I've had the pleasure of speaking with her a couple of times. She is the owner of Creative Ledger Bookkeeping. She is from Illinois, which I'm sure it's nice and toasty and warm up there right now. She specializes in her bookkeeping business, working with artists and authors, and she herself is a artist, although she'll tell you that she's maybe not, but I think that she is. She graduated from Columbia College in Chicago. Welcome to the show, Amanda Dziubala.
Thank you very much, Ben. Nice to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking time out. Now, you live in Illinois right now, correct?
I do, northwest suburbs of Chicago.
So is it cold and snowy?
It is freezing. It is. It's not the coldest it's been. It's about 10 degrees right now.
Oh, that's sunbathing weather.
Yeah, we got to negative 45 last month, so I'm happy about the 10 degrees.
Yeah, no, thank you. I saw pictures of the ice waves and stuff that were coming off of Lake Erie. You know, obviously that's going to be east of you, but my goodness, no, thank you. I don't like hot and I don't like cold. I like San Diego type of weather. So
yes, San Diego is beautiful, and it'll be like that here next month. So yeah.
It is. Well, thank you again for joining us here today. Let's just jump right into things here. Why in the world did you decide to become a bookkeeping professional?
It's kind of a long story, so I'll try and make it quick. But I was a bank teller at Harris Bank, and I realized how much I loved money or counting money, not money itself, but I love the balancing of my drawer every day. I love balancing the vault. I just love the zeroing things out every day. And I ended up getting an opportunity to work as a accounts receivable clerk at a trucking company out here. And I just loved the work. And that's how I got into it. And that was 11 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So that was 11 years ago. When did you actually start your own virtual bookkeeping business?
I started my business in October of 2017.
Okay.
After your program.
Okay. So you went through Bookkeeper Business Launch, which is the program you referred to there.
Yes.
And I always like to kind of figure out where we are today and then kind of back into that so that everybody gets some exposure to our field. So you started that. How many clients do you serve right now?
Right now I have 15 clients. I just got one yesterday.
Wow.
My 15th yesterday. So he's a micro client, but hey, I just love working with people and artists, and so it's doing pretty good. I'm proud of what I've created.
Well, you should be. That's one client a month. That's tremendous, and especially given the first 15 months. So great job, Amanda. Yeah. So are all of your clients in your niche? Do you serve only artists and
No, about 90% of them are. I just kind of gravitate towards artists, and I don't know. Sometimes the people that I'm talking with don't even realize I'm a bookkeeper for artists until I tell them, and that sort of solidifies their belief in me after they realize that. Like I said, I just kind of gravitate towards people who are creative, and I love it. The way that they think, the way that they need people like me who are good in bookkeeping, and because their brain doesn't really work that way. And I, as an artist myself, it resonates with me to help them.
Oh, that's awesome. I really want to kind of dive into those clients here in just a minute. But going back to starting your bookkeeping business, like you had a job before this where you were getting a steady paycheck. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. I've been employed since I was 14 years old.
Okay.
And yes, I had a steady paycheck. I was working full-time, working mom right before I started my business. And then I went to part-time as my business picked up. And I was lucky enough to have a flexible job like that where I could go part-time. And as my business grew, I went more and more part-time, and then I eventually quit.
Okay. So, what was the real reason that you wanted to start your own business versus staying in that job?
Well, my boss at the time, I worked for a woman out of her house. I was a property manager and bookkeeper, personal bookkeeper. And she was moving out of the country. So, like I said, I worked out of her home. So, her home was my office, and she was
Mm,
planning to sell her home. So, therefore, I would eventually not have a job anymore because her home would be gone. So, basically, the plan was she gave me this news, and it wasn't immediate. It was going to happen in a few months. And so I started searching. I didn't want to quit because I loved working for her. I loved my job. I loved how close I was to home and my kids. So I didn't want to quit. So I started searching the internet. What can I do to make more money? What can I do to save more money? And that's when I landed on the pennyhoarder.com website. They give all kinds of money saving tips. And I found one of your articles.
okay.
And I just I went for it.
Yeah. So yeah, we love the penny hoarder. They are a great ally to us, and really they just spread a lot of truth that's out there. So I'm glad you mentioned them. So really, as you were doing this search, were you looking for a job specifically?
Sort of a part-time position. But I was also looking for ways that I could save money because I know we were overspending. I know that we were spending too much on food and too much on going out to eat and things. We didn't go out to eat a lot, but I think any of those types of purchases can be cut back on.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to save money where I could.
Okay. So you were looking for the holy grail. How can I make more and spend less?
Exactly.
Which is what, ironically, we help our businesses to do, the clients that we serve as bookkeeping professionals.
Yes.
Okay, so you came across that. Were you nervous at all about starting your own business?
Oh gosh. I didn't think I could do it. You know, I've always had really good support in my life. My friends, my family, my parents, my husband. I've always had really good support. So that sort of has helped me believe in myself, throughout the years. And I was still so nervous. I didn't think I could do it, but I had this something in the back of my head. I just knew that I should try. And it was a big expense at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now I realize how worth it
Mm-hmm.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
yes,
I know when you say worth it, I mean, it was an expense, but it really became an investment in yourself.
it really was. What I was looking for, I had the bookkeeping background, okay? And I didn't have bookkeeping schooling though. So the course was a twofer for me. It was the business education side of it. I learned a lot about business, about marketing myself, about, websites and all the kinds of things that a business owner needs to know. But then I also had a refresh and some schooling in bookkeeping itself. I had the experience under my belt, but I didn't have the formal education. And so the course it solidified everything that I had already been doing for so many years.
Yes, that's awesome to hear, and because it is a little bit different, right? Especially when you're servicing multiple clients and not just
Oh,
one.
totally different. And it's different in your aspect, and then it's also different for the clients. And they appreciate you so much more than, an employer does, in
Mm,
my experience. Employer thinks they're doing you a favor by giving you a job,
mm.
whereas the client thinks that you're just the bee's knees and you're helping them so much. And they show you that, and they're thankful for that. So just hearing the words thank you was a huge revelation for me, and it kept me going.
Yeah. Do you feel important in what you do?
Very much so.
How,
Very much so.
so, can you give me a practical example of that, of how you felt like, hey, what I do matters?
Um, well, this one of my very first clients is a gentleman local to me, and he owns a like a flooring business, and he was, not kidding here, 9 years behind on his taxes.
9 years. Wow.
9 years.
Hmm.
So it was probably my second client. So I was just, okay, I think I can do this. Let's see. And so I met with him. He told me all his, pain points, as you call them, all his problems, all his things that he really needed help with. And I just went one after another and I executed all of them. We finished the cleanup. I think I finished it in a month and a half or 2 months to make him current. And he was just relieved. He was so, there was a lot of stress off of his shoulders. And that was wonderful.
And it was nice that was your second client, although we don't advise that typically to do a 9-year cleanup as your second or your first client.
Well, I had that bookkeeping under my belt, so I felt pretty confident.
Well, that's good. Yeah. That's good. So use that word confident. All right. Let's talk about confidence, because that's as you know now, a very important element of being successful, regardless if we're talking about building your bookkeeping business or anything else. So I think you just expressed that your confidence comes from, number one, having the skill set. But in what other ways have you broken through, not just hey, I'm starting a business, but how have you gained more confidence in yourself and your abilities, and how have you grown through this process?
A huge part of being confident is constantly getting out there. And it doesn't necessarily mean physically in my neighborhood getting out there, because I actually don't network a whole lot in my physical neighborhood. I am part of the Chamber of Commerce, but I haven't really been to any network events. But when I mean getting out there, is getting in front of people who need my services, getting on calls with them, talking with them, figuring things out, maybe flubbing a few calls, but then the next call is that much better. And just, it's almost like an interview process when you're looking for a job. You have to, every interview, you should take away something. And then every single interview after that, your confidence just grows and grows and grows until you finally get the job.
I love that. Have you found yourself to be, and this does tie in with what you just said there, have you found yourself to have fear in putting yourself out there?
Tons and tons of fear. Mm-hmm. I'm always afraid, and not always. So I have times where the fear overwhelms me almost, because everything that I'm doing in my business is completely related to all my personal finances. I need these clients. I need to do a good job for them, because if I lose any of them, I just don't want to let them down. I don't want to lose them as clients. There's a financial responsibility. I have a family. I have responsibilities. I have a mortgage. So yes, there's lots of fear.
Yeah.
But you just have to keep going and know that if you treat people with respect and try and help as much as you can, and not just go out and get clients for the money, that it'll come back to you. It'll serve you well.
I love that. That's a great philosophy, and actually an axiom of truth that you're living there. So congratulations to you again, Amanda. You're doing a lot of great things. Let's talk about the 15 clients. You went from 0 to 15. Right off the bat, have you spent any money on advertising?
I tried doing that and it didn't work. So I never did it again. I did a Facebook ad, and most likely it was because I didn't know what I was doing. It probably wasn't the ad itself or Facebook's fault. It's very confusing the way everything is set up. And so the only other advertising I do, which still has not netted me any clients, is putting ads on Craigslist. I've gotten a few inquiries, and then I respond, and then I never hear back. So, yeah.
Seems to be hit or miss on Craigslist. Some people have great success with it, and other people struggle. Most people struggle with it.
I have gotten clients from Craigslist, just not that way. I've responded to job postings.
Right.
I've gotten 1, 2, 3 clients that way.
Okay. So basically, you've spent next to nothing on advertising outside of that, and now you have 15 clients.
Mhm.
Now, I know that you didn't just hang out a shingle and 15 clients came running a path to your door. So, what have been, other than Craigslist, which you mentioned you've gotten 3 clients off of, how are some other ways in which you've gotten your clients?
Alignable was a pretty big one in the beginning.
Oh,
They are local. Alignable is similar to LinkedIn. It's a place where you can have business to business connections, and it's only local to you. If you purchase the premium membership, which I did for a while, but I recently canceled that because it just hasn't been fruitful. You can expand, you have a certain number of credits, and you can expand your service area past your local community for $30 a month or something.
okay.
So I've gotten probably 3 or 4 clients that way. Um, all of them in my niche, however you say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and how else? Let's see, Craigslist. Oh, there was one from a Facebook group.
Okay.
She was a graphic designer, and Upwork.
Mm.
I found some success recently on Upwork.
Wow. Okay. What about your network, your personal friends, things like that? Have you gotten any
I've
clients from
had
that?
interest. Sorry to overlap you there.
No, you're fine.
I've had interest, but I haven't had any actual clients sign up.
Okay. All
I've
right.
had inquiries, I've had questions, but nothing that's solidified anything.
It's always like planting seeds. You plant 1,000 seeds and maybe 10 of them come up, but they yield a great crop. And that's the same way it is with marketing. We do our best to pick the best seeds, to have the best message, to go to the right market. But sometimes we just don't know where they're going to come from. That's why we stress, like, you need 20 ways to get one client, not one way to get 20 clients.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
always,
I actually just thought of something and I completely lied about the last thing. My sister, I don't know how I forgot this. My sister is my client.
oh, okay.
Yeah. She's an author.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's great. Well, I bet you get to see a lot of cool stuff with the clients that you serve.
I do.
Yeah.
And every artistic business is run completely differently. So
Hmm.
while there are some commonalities in the way that the business owners think, the way that they create and everything, none of them are run the same.
Yeah.
So you have to be really flexible with this type of client, which is something I pride myself on.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it helps you with them because you are an artist or you have had experience in the art world in the past?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It does
Uh,
because I know what it's like to be a literal starving artist.
right.
I worked all through college full time, and it was hard. It was really hard to go to work every day, work full time, come home at night, and start creating.
Mm,
It was, and so I can't imagine creating a business out of that.
right.
And where I failed in doing that, I'm trying to help others do what I always wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That is awesome. What's your favorite part about having your own business and working? Do you work from home, right?
I do. I work
Okay.
100% from home. Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite part about that?
Being able to pick up my kids from school is pretty awesome.
Hmm.
If my son has to stay late at school for sports, he's in a lot of sports. I can come and get him. If my daughter gets sick at daycare, I can go and pick her up. I mean, it's just, and all my clients are real receptive to that kind of thing. You're not dealing with a boss who you have to use your vacation time in order to leave work early, or you get scowls if you have to. I'm going to go into a tangent here if that's okay,
I
because
love
I
tangents.
have to give props to all the moms who not only work full time but are starting this business, because it's so hard. And I had my daughter is 4. I had her when I was working full time at my last job, and I was dead set on. Hopefully, this is appropriate. I was dead set on breastfeeding as long as I could.
Sure.
And it was a huge struggle for me, and that was probably one of the most important things I've ever done in my life. And when a lot of people don't realize how hard it is, and pumping at work, preserving your milk, remembering to bring all the equipment to work and bring it home and wash it, and it's a struggle. And I have to give props to all the moms who do that every single day.
Absolutely. I mean, I stand in awe because as a guy, I understand, or I don't understand, I should say, the way you balance all that stuff. So it's amazing to me, that right there. So if we had to say, we just asked about, what's the benefit, what's your favorite thing about it? If there was one word that encapsulates what you like most about having your own business, what would that be?
Not having a boss. That's
Okay.
probably, having had such a long career. I worked for 36 years straight, full time, or not 36 years. I'm sorry, I'm 37.
Wow, you were working
20
since
years.
what?
I worked for
Okay.
20 years, and I like not having to answer to anybody. I like being the one who makes the decisions, and am the leader of my destiny, basically.
I love that. So would that one word be control?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, control is a big, huge element. Flexibility is another way in which people express that, but
Hmm.
being captain of your own ship, so to speak. So that's
Exactly.
great. All right, so let's kind of shift gears here. What's the vision for your business? Where do you want to go from where you are today?
I want to grow. I want to have bookkeepers working for me or under me, however you want to say it. Um, I don't have a huge preference. Like, I'd love to help out moms who are staying at home, but I don't have a huge, I'm not going to turn away a man just because he's a man or anything. But I do like that idea of helping out other moms who are dedicated to work, but also dedicated to their families. As far as clients, I do love the niche that I'm in. I love working with artists. I would like to have a more diverse um, type of client. I just got my first photography client, which I'm loving. So there's so many different artists out there. I'd like to have, all different types of clients. In the long term, I want to grow to a point where my business doesn't really need me all that much,
Hmm.
it can kind of run itself. That's my biggest goal.
Okay. So those are some of the features. Let's talk about what that's really going to mean to your life. Okay, because I always challenge people when they say, "Hey, I want to hire others and I want to do this." You really don't want that. You want what that's going to yield. And I
Hmm.
think that you touch base with it there on that last one where it doesn't really involve you in the day to day. Like, what does that look like? Well, let's put yourself out there 5 years. What does that mean to you, day in, day out, to your family, day in, day out?
Number one, my first goal is to get my husband to quit his job. That's huge for me. I want to
Okay.
make enough in my daily with all my clients to so he can quit, because it's a very labor intensive job. They don't appreciate him for all the things that he does. It's a big corporation. I'm not going to mention the corporation, but I want him. He wants to be a stay at home dad. I know in the back of his mind he would really love that, and I want to give that to him. That's my number one goal right now, and that's probably 4 or 5 years away still,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, the trajectory that you're going on, we never know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, having that. So one of the things, and it's funny, I just got not too long ago did another recording of podcast, a show with somebody who we had a similar conversation. But one thing I would recommend is getting clear on what it looks like. And I know that when we get here to talk about your challenge, it doesn't really have to do with that, but it actually does. And one of the reasons is that we kind of we think that we know what we want, but we don't really get clear on it. And we can list out things like, I want to hire others and I want to have processes and I want to make more money. But what does all that mean? How does it manifest? What are the benefits to doing that? And really asking yourself these questions and then getting to the nitty gritty about what that looks like. And you know that we're big on writing a journal or writing something that visualizes, whether in words or in pictures, what that's going to do for you, for your husband, for your children. And so I just want to encourage you to do that, to get very granular on what that's going to mean for your life. Does that make sense?
It does. And I definitely fail at that sometimes. Some of your exercises in writing journals and things like that. I don't do them, and I try sometimes, and I just can't get the words out on paper. So I really have to struggle and try to get those kinds of things done.
Yeah. Well, you're in good company or bad company. I don't know which, because I do too. I mean, I teach this. I know that it's good. And when I do it, it's kind of like meditation or something like that. I know that I should do it, or going to the gym. I feel so good afterwards, but it's so hard to get there.
Yes.
But it's that paradox. And yeah, it is difficult. One of the ways in which I've found to overcome that is to, one, be intentional about it and not like plan this out. Like, this is my hour that I'm going to spend. And when you say that, you got to center it around a fun activity. Like, hey, I'm going to go to my favorite coffee shop or my favorite sandwich shop and be alone and with my thoughts, and make it an event, make it something that you actually are looking forward to rather than dreading.
Okay.
And I have to do that same thing, but I think that being intentional about it, and then secondly, making it a positive environment and something that you actually look forward to, those are critical elements to doing those things.
Okay. Like, I could, for instance, block out a part of my day where I sit down with a cup of coffee and maybe have in front of the TV, but have the TV off, on my comfy couch, and sit down with a pad of paper and just start to write something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I also would involve your husband in this process too, because it not only impacts you, it's impacting him in a huge way. I mean, I can feel the passion in your voice about what it is that you want to do, and sharing that. Of course, this is by no way of marriage counseling at all. I just know that we have a shared vision and everybody buys into it. We are setting ourselves up for success.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, that's the first action item there for you. Now, let's talk about the challenge or the opportunity that you have. Why don't you tee that up for the audience, and then let's chat.
Okay. So over the last year, I've tried every single app and program there is for organizing my business. Asana, Practice Ignition, ClickUp. I've used them all, and I can't stand any of them. I try them for a week. I get everything set up, which takes hours to do. Get everything set up, and then I just stop using them. Even if I have the Chrome extension on my browser and I've got everything hooked up to my email, nothing ever clicks. And I use Evernote. Evernote is one of my favorite things to use. It's just like having a piece of paper in front of you, which is probably why I like it. It's very simple. And I do checklists inside of Evernote. But other than that, I stick to paper, pads of paper, and folders in my office, like old school. And I write down hours. If I'm tracking a project by hours, I write them down on a piece of paper. I don't use anything on my computer, and I feel like I'm failing at that. I feel like it needs to be cohesive on my computer because I am a virtual business.
Okay. So let's I want to dive into something. Tell me why you feel like a failure with this.
I just everybody else seems so happy with these options. Trello is a big one in the artist community. Asana, what's that other one that my author clients use? It's cool, but I stick to spreadsheets at most, and then my Evernote. I just feel like everybody else has found these perfect programs and I can't find one that I like.
Okay. At the end of the day, what do you want these to do for you that's not getting done now?
I need something in front of my face all the time that's telling me what I need to do, where I need to go, what's next on my list. And right now, I have an actual physical list in front of me on my desk that I write every single night. I make notes after I finish the day, and I say, "This is what I need to do first, second, third, fourth, and fifth next tomorrow." And I need some way to streamline all of that. I use Google. I'm a Google girl, is what I say. Um, Everything's integrated with Google for me. I use Google Drive. I use Google Calendar. I use Google Contacts. So that's starting to come together. I use Acuity for my scheduling, which is a great service. If you ever are looking for a calendar scheduler, Acuity is what I recommend. And yeah, I just need something that it's hard for me to go to my desktop in the morning and open all these programs and remember to do that.
Okay.
I need something that's in my face telling me, hey, here's your reminder. You need to do this today.
Okay.
Here's your list of items.
Are things falling through the cracks?
They were for a while until I set up my paper and folder system.
Okay. All right.
So maybe it's a time thing. I don't know. I need more time.
Yeah, we all need that. That's what I'm trying to come up with next is a time machine. I'm trying to really create a flux capacitor.
When you find one, let me know.
Yeah, I'll sell them. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm trying to get to the root of is like, why? I mean, I know that we see people that are using them, and I always am of the mind, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Right. And one side of me is like that, but then also knowing kind of where you want to take your business. I know that that's going to involve other people and it's going to involve processes. And so what got us here may not get us there. And so what I'm looking for is there a need for this? And if it's what's working now is working fine and you've got some sort of organization and you feel good about it, then why do you need one of these things? I mean, they're great to have. Trust me. I know. And there may be a time when you actually need to because you have other people that are virtual. But what are the limitations of what you're using now?
That is what you just said is exactly the limitation, is that I want to start bringing on more help. Okay. And when I have physical pieces of paper instead of something digital, it keeps me from being able to translate what I do to other people. Now, what I'm doing right now, I have an assistant, and I just took on a freelance bookkeeper for a small project just to see how it goes. And what I do to train them is I do screen share recordings of my process.
It's beautiful.
But I feel, which is great. They love it and they understand. It's easy for them to learn. But I still feel like there's something missing. Like I should have a written process. As well, a written way to communicate with these people besides email tasks and things.
Okay, so let me just kind of walk you through a scenario. This is kind of an aside, Amanda. I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but something that we have found to be very useful because I'm lazy when it comes to writing stuff. So you already have the assets. So when you record something that you do, and by the way, you should record it while you do it, so you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. So if I were wanting to teach a process of how to categorize expenses using QuickBooks Online, I would fire it up with the client. I would get the work done. I would show it. I would talk through it, and I would give all kinds of details. And now they get to see it, and now they get to hear my voice. So there's one asset right there. Second thing that I do is I would take that and I would upload it to rev.com so that they transcribe it for me.
Oh,
they transcribe it.
My authors use rev.com. I never thought about that.
All right. So upload that to rev.com and they'll get you the transcript back usually within 24 hours. Now, here's another key. It's just a bunch of gobbledygook. It's just you talking. There's a bunch of ums and all of that. Now, if your assistant is able to do this, we're doing this with our virtual assistant, is that she is going through and taking the highlights and creating a checklist. And I call it the aircraft checklist. And here's an action item. I want you to Google Cessna 172S checklist. It doesn't make any sense, but it's an aircraft checklist. And I learned this when I was in the Air Force. It's basically abbreviated. It's on one page. And when I say one page, it's like take a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, cut it in half, and that's the checklist. These are the critical things. It doesn't go into the minutia of like, go here. These are the things that if you break the process down and say, what are the 8 things or the 6 things or the primary things that have to get done in this? That's the checklist. And that comes from the video, which goes to the transcription, which now comes over here, right? And you can actually earmark these beforehand. So if I'm going to go back to that example where I was using the bank reconciliation, or excuse me, the categorization and reconciliation, I suppose, what I'm going to do is beforehand, I'm going to write those down. And when I get to each one of those, I'm going to go critical task. This goes on the checklist. So I see in the written transcript, or your assistant sees in the transcript, the checklist points.
Oh, so you actually verbally say it.
Yes, because this is for internal use only, right? So it doesn't matter if you're saying some stuff, but earmark it. I mean, you can have a code word. It doesn't matter. Just something so that he or she knows where they need to pull out the checklist items. Now, at first, I would recommend that you take the transcript and do a couple of them so that you understand the process itself.
Sure.
Before you give that to someone else. Because now you can kind of see it full through. But do this and it creates a checklist. Now, I know that this is really kind of tangential to asking about, hey, what's the thing? But I'm looking for what's the thing supposed to do? What's the result it's supposed to deliver to you? And that is a starting point for creating your processes. That
is cool. I like that.
Yeah, ask me how I know, because we had to figure out something here. And back in the day, when I had my firm, we did a same kind of thing, but the technology here is so much better now.
Right. It's changed so much over the last 5, even 10 years. It's insane.
Absolutely. And since you're a Google girl, you can actually, with the Google spreadsheets now, they have the little checkbox thing where it's an interactive checkbox. So you probably have seen that.
I love that. I've used it a lot. Yeah.
That's good. Another tool that we're just starting to use and is called Praxio, Praxio. It's not intended for our profession. It's really more of a generic kind of getting stuff done. I think it's out of beta now, but we were one of the first users. It marries up, and I don't want to go into this right now real deep, but check it out. And everybody out there, we'll put that in the show notes, praxio.com. It's great for internal training. It's great where it marries up, hey, that information in that video, you have to get that and you have to complete that before you can move on and actually see the checklists.
Okay.
As you start to grow, I think that they've kind of cracked a nut here. It'll be getting better. They're just in rendition 1.0, I believe, as of this recording. But that's something that we're using. But we don't want to be too focused on the app or the software. We want to say, what is it that I want to accomplish? My contention is that less is more when it comes to technology. That if you can get away with not using that app, you're better off, because by definition, technology is complicated, right? If you've ever looked at computer code, it's a bunch of gobbledygook, which is complexity. What we have to say is the complexity of putting a piece of technology in play, does it override what's going on over here in my chaotic situation? And if it does, then we have a lever. We have something that's going to give us an advantage. But so many times I see people, they just go out there and they get the app, and it actually makes their life more difficult than it actually does. And so that's why I'm just getting to the root of what it is that you want from this.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And that's why I love Evernote so much, because it's so simple. It's literally just like a Word document, but it's organized in virtual folders. Yeah. So there's no menus and subcategories and all this stuff, like ClickUp, probably one of the coolest apps I've ever used, but so complicated and convoluted. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying and I love it. I'm going to check out Praxio just to see what it's all about. And I'll definitely do the rev.com transcription. Yes. I think that's cool.
Now, I would also stress to you, I really wouldn't look at Praxio in terms of like implementing it right now at all. What you want to do is define the process and then find something that's going to help you to facilitate that process or to deliver the training. Okay. Focus on that first before we start getting app happy.
Sure. Yeah.
Because that's something that I see so much, and that we're always looking for that silver bullet in the form of an app when it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, and the other problem with apps is that they could go bye-bye within the
Hmm.
next 2-3 years if they fail, and
Yeah.
then you're stuck high and dry.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, that being said, that's kind of the first part of it. And then there's the let's refine this process. Let's make it more efficient. And not just that, but how do we marry our process to our people? Because I'm looking here at my board right now, and you ask, how do I keep things in front of me? I literally have an 11.5 foot by 8 foot dry erase board. It's three
Okay.
panels, and I keep most things on there like I have 7 things on there right now that are like projects, kind of big things, not like a checklist or anything, but I'm
Yeah.
always looking at it right here. I'm looking at you right here that I'm doing this
Yeah.
recording with you right now,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, these are the big things that I got to get accomplished. And they're only a handful, but that's staying in front of me. That works for me. I don't want to use an app to tell me to do that. I'd hate that. But other people, they're like, oh my gosh, that's heresy, Ben. How can you not use an app? That's fine because it works for you. This is not anecdotal.
Mhm.
See, what we think is that, hey, other people are getting all this great success out of the app. Therefore, I'm not getting that success. Therefore, I'm a failure or I'm not doing something I should be, when that's not the case.
Okay.
So,
Well, good.
that,
I'm doing something right then.
yeah, absolutely. And so, now as and as you kind of facilitate your vision, it's probably going to be necessary that you do have something where you can rally the troops around, something like a Praxio or an Asana or something like that. But before you go into that, really ask yourself and bring your team together if you have one and say, what is it we want to do first? What are the guidelines? And then, and only then, do we say, well, what can we use to help us to deliver upon that?
Okay.
Rather than vice versa, saying, hey, I'm going to get Asana. And now, okay, what can I do with it? That's the reverse. That's the opposite of what we want to do. And obviously, I'll get no app companies that ever sponsor this show by saying that, but I really don't care.
I know I
Um,
pretty much dogged them all, didn't I?
yeah. Well, no. It's not the app's fault. It's really because I think that most of the apps are good for the purpose in which they're intended to do.
Mhm.
But what happens with these apps is that they say, oh, and we're going to do this and this. We're going to do this and this. And
Right.
now they start to water it down from their core functionality.
Exactly. It gets too much. Gets too complicated. They're trying to do too much.
Yeah.
Again, why I love Evernote.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
things are working, but as you grow and as you expand and as you start to scale your business, step back from it, look at it, work on your business, work on your processes, and then try to figure out what's the lever, what's going to help you. I always liken it to being a carpenter. A carpenter, if he or she is putting together cabinets, building cabinets or building bookshelves, whatever, most likely they're going to use a nail gun or brad gun, something that has a motor or air attached to it that's going to help them. That is a lever. Does that nail gun make them the carpenter? No, doesn't.
Mhm.
I can go buy a nail gun right now at Home Depot and shoot myself in the foot and be in the ER tonight. That doesn't make me a carpenter, right? That makes me an idiot. So it's just a lever in the hands of somebody who knows what in the heck he's doing. It's a really good thing. In my hands, it's a bad thing. And that's kind of the way it is with an app. An app is a nail gun. In the right hands of somebody who knows clearly what they want to do and clearly what the end result's going to be, how that cabinet's going to look. Now it's kind of going back to being an artist, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's another thing. You look at this as a piece of art, right? Like when you put together, you probably have, I know that you put together just like this masterpiece and you stand back from it and you go, oh my gosh, that was hard. But I'll treasure this experience for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't care if you make any money from it. But we also have to do that. We're artisans. We're craftsmen, craftswomen. If that's such a word, I just made it one. So trademark. We're craftspersons in this, and we have to see it as something that we continually get better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, I love your analogies.
That's the only way that I can learn. It's kind of like, putting it into some terms. Yeah, but no,
I don't think I've heard the carpenter one yet, but I like
that
it.
came to me one day. I don't know where it was. As all great ideas or whatever comes, it's just at the spur of the moment, something like that.
Right.
But that's really the process that I would take to really step back from this and ask why. And I don't think that your success is going to be limited by not having the right app at all.
Okay.
You already have a proven formula. work with, improve it, and then at the time it necessitates itself, figure out if you need to change it. But right now, you don't need to change it.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate
You're
the
welcome.
advice.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I always like to kind of circle back. Let's talk about your action items, okay, as a result of this today. So what are the action items that you have down? What are you going to do?
I have my little notepad here. I've been taking notes. I want to sit down and visualize my goals, my end result of what I'm building. So, and get down to the nitty gritty, as you said. And I'm going to block out time to do this instead of just kind of hoping I have time and then never getting to it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do some videos of my daily transactions with my customers, what I actually do for them, and then make a transcript in rev.com. I'm going to look up that checklist that you told me about, Cessna 172S checklist. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm going to earmark those videos for my training. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then once I have all that in place, I can start to look at apps and what really might actually work for what I want to accomplish.
Well, I would tell you before that, I would start working on refining my processes.
Okay.
Before I actually started looking at an app, because this will work in a Google Sheet. Okay, you can share this with your team if you're going to be doing that. Is it the most efficient thing for now? Yeah. There are other ways. And again, I know that there are people listening to this, bookkeeping professionals, that call heresy on me. That's fine. Do whatever you want. I'm giving the way that I would do it that I know to be most efficient. But I would really work on refining those processes before I started looking at an app. That's your lever. That's where you're going to get results.
Yeah.
And always think back to this. Do my clients care? Does a client care if you use Evernote, Asana, or a piece of paper or skywriting? Do they care? No. They don't care. They probably don't even know.
And they just want the job done.
They want the job done. That's exactly right. So always ask yourself that question. Well, Amanda, you've been a great participant. Thanks for letting me chat with you here today.
It's been a pleasure. I absolutely took away a lot from this. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Now, if you would like to hear more great conversations like today with Amanda, thanks again for being here, then head on over to ilovebookkeeping.com, because there you're going to find all the shows. We've also got show notes, and we've also got some other goodies that are on the site. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, there is an application on that site. You just go to the Be a Guest page that's on ilovebookkeeping.com. And finally, if you want to learn more about our courses, Bookkeeper Business Launch, Bookkeeper Elite, Money Guides at all, then we've got a courses tab that is on that same page. Thank you all for being great bookkeeping professionals. Thank you for representing our industry with pride.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends working hard at keeping the books. You want to change your life, you want to grow that biz, it's not as hard as it looks. Be a money guide, a profit coach, step up your game and see. You'll be working less and make